Oh hey gents, this is Noah from Noah's Archetypes, and today we'll be looking at the Create a Card project that's coming from Konami. And I will admit this is a very interesting idea, as what it's doing is allowing the fans and the players of Yu-Gi-Oh! To interact with this project so that we can create a card together. And seeing as we are not able to duel in tournaments at the moment, I think this is a good way to keep us invested in the card game. And there are 16 archetypes that we will be discussing, and whether or not one card could save this archetype or not, and which ones I think might win the first rounds. Of course, mermaids, frogs, and light swans are the ones that everyone feels almost likely to win, but anything could happen. Also, like to mention that I am not sure how this project will keep going forward. Stage 1, I would assume, is choosing which archetype will be getting a new card. Stage 2 might be choosing whether it's a monster, spell, or trap that we are creating. And stage 3 probably choosing the effect. And I doubt that they'll let us design the effect ourselves. They'll probably just let us vote on whether or not we want a search effect, a destruction effect, negation, etc., based on the card that we have chosen, of the archetype we have chosen. So let's just get right into it and see what we've got going here. Okay, so first of all, we have the weather and gradles. Now the weather or weather painters is actually a fairly new archetype, so it in terms of a competitive sense, it does pretty well on its own, where gradles on the other hand has only one synchro monster, and the deck in general needs a lot of support. So one new card won't help this deck at all. It really needs a lot of work, and honestly, between these two, I don't think that Gradle has enough support behind it in order to make it to the next round. So I think that one will be out. Next, we have the Dynamist and the Light Swans, and this one is a little bit tougher because Light Swans are very popular. They were very meta relevant for a while, and they actually do get meshed into a lot of different archetypes, including a lot of chaos builds, in which you have dark and light monsters in the graveyard, and you either banish them for effects or banish them to summon other monsters. And light swans actually help with this a lot, as they tend to send the cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard, so that you can fill up your graveyard with dark and light monsters in order to, get your effects going. So there's a chance that Dynamist loses, but then again, we could have a situation where Light Swan loses, because there is actually a thread that is technically trying to get people to vote against Light Swans, and they're saying it's not propaganda to get you to not vote for Light Swans, but it's totally propaganda. But either way, I would like to see Dynamist win. Don't think it will, not sure. It could go either way with these two. But Dynamist is also the only pendulum archetype in this list, I think, and we haven't had any pendulum support in a while, so it would be nice to see some pendulum cards in the future. Next on the list, we have Valkyries and Insectors. Now, I'm not sure exactly how popular Insectors are. I've only played with them a little bit. I'm a little more familiar with Valkyries, and because they have some anime presence, they come from Yu-Gi-Oh! DM era. There's a chance that they might beat out the Insectors. That is depending on how popular Insectors were in the tournaments, meta, and etc. Like, I just don't know, but I think they might lose this one. Next up, we have Sylvans and Cyber Angels. Now, I don't know how popular Sylvans were back in the day, were they ever meta relevant or not, but I do know that Cyber Angels were meta relevant in duelings, and maybe some of the Duel Links players will be interested in voting in this. It was also played by Alexis Rhodes in the anime, in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. So there's a chance that this deck will beat out Sylvans. And if it does, then, well, what can I say? So when we look at the Cyber Angel cards, I do think that getting a new Cyber Angel monster might actually be a good idea, as this archetype is based on the 7 gods of luck or something like that. I just know there are 7 gods, but so far we only have 6 ritual monsters, so getting one more might actually help this deck a lot. A lot of them had tribute related effects, Ben 10, when tributed, could let you get a light fairy monster from your deck to your hand. Eda 10, on the other hand, would give all your monsters 1000 attack, and when it is ritual summoned, you get to add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Cyber Angel Eda 10 had a recovery effect where you could get a ritual monster or machine angel ritual back from the graveyard at the end of the turn. So I think if they keep to this theme, then the Archetype might actually go into an interesting direction. They also had a new support released recently, a lot of more machine angel spell cards, and all of them have tribute related effects, but only 2 of them actually help you gain advantage from that. Only 2 of them have float effects in that manner. So I think if the newer card that gets released also has a tribute related effect, then it would actually be very interesting. There was a card released known as Cyber Angel Natasha that doesn't have a tribute related effect, but its effect is interesting, although its levels is a bit different from all the others, as it has an odd level. It's level 5, or all the others are even leveled 6, 8, and 10. So if they created a new Cyber Angel monster, it should have a tribute related effect where it also floats after being tributed. For example, maybe they could make an effect where you take a Cyber Angel ritual monster from your graveyard and either special summon it or add it to your hand, depending on whether or not it was previously ritual summoned. So if it was ritually summoned properly, then you can special summon it, otherwise you add it to your hand. And then I think that would be a good direction you could take a new Cyber Angel card. Next we have Fire Kings and X-Sabers. Now I think X-Sabers were popular back in the day, so I really don't think that the Fire Kings are gonna beat out the X-Sabers, but I do think they need support as well. Fire King, High Avatar, Grunix, and Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys have the same level, the same attribute, and the same type, and the effects are also very similar. When both of them are special summoned from the graveyard after being destroyed, Grunix destroys all other monsters on the field, where Nephthys destroys all other spell and trap cards on the field. The only difference being that Grunix is a little bit faster, as it special summons itself during the next standby phase, and Nephthys special summons itself during your next standby phase. So Grunix is a bit faster, but they have a lot of things in common, and I think if we find a way to combine these 2 archetypes, that might be very interesting. But I don't know if the lore behind both of these archetypes would allow for that, but it would be interesting if we had a ritual version of Fire King High Avatar Grunix that basically does a similar thing in terms of destruction and stuff like that, but just the fact that it's a ritual monster that is part of the Nephthys and the Fire King archetype would actually be very interesting. But again, I don't think that they will win in this competition. Next up we have Fortune Ladies and Hazy Flames. Now first of all, the Fortune Ladies back in the day all had different attributes and different levels, but then they started releasing newer monsters that had similar attributes and levels, but they were based on what happened in the anime with the character Carly Carmine. Fortune Lady Past is actually a reference to when Carly Carmine became a Dark Signer, etc, etc. So I do think it's possible for them to make more Fortune Lady monsters. We do need a synchro one that actually has an effect that would activate the turn it is summoned instead of waiting until your next standby phase. That would be a good direction to go with them. And I think maybe you could also make it in reference to something that happened in the anime, but either way, they would actually benefit from having a new synchro monster. The Volcanics would have been a better choice for the other option here, and to be honest, I do think they might have actually beat out a lot of the competition, because they get a lot of attention on Yu-Gi-Oh videos. There is a certain duelist that likes Volcanics, that always comments on people's videos, and if this card was chosen, I think he would have been able to rally a lot of people behind him to try and win this competition. But either way, Hazy Flames is a Pyro archetype, so maybe we could get some support for them that might support Pyro monsters in general. But for this one, I don't think Hazy Flame is going to win. Next up, we have mermaids and photons. Now, as I gather, mermaids are very likable and meta relevant, so I don't think photons are going to win this one at all. There isn't anything to discuss really. I don't know much about mermaids, so all I know is if they do make some support for them, they will definitely become very interesting, depending on what type of card you make for them though. And then finally, we have frogs and TGs. Now, honestly, I do not see TGs winning this one at all. They did get support recently, so I think that is one of the reasons why people will vote against them. But frogs are very well meta relevant and popular, especially for their Xyz monster, Totally Awesome, which has a very interesting effect in which it can negate a spell, trap or monster effect that your opponent activates, and then you can set that card on your side of the field, which means you could potentially use it for yourself later, and that is a very awesome effect. So if they actually make a new Xyz monster that has a very good effect just like this, then I think frogs will become even better than they already are. Or maybe a main deck monster that's also good. Either way, I think that they will make it to the final rounds. Anyway, that's what I think of this. Tell me down below which archetypes you guys are voting for, and which ones do you think should win, even if you know they're not gonna win. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll check you guys in the next round.